Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Courtside Investor podcast. I'm host the Card Boss, and on this podcast, we talk about everything sports cards, business, finance, investing, money. Today's topic is basically to answer a question that I've been receiving lately, given that how hot the market is. And the question is, do I personally invest in any sports cards, right? Because all you guys know, I'm in the business of moving cards, buying and selling. I've shared a lot of videos about the business aspect of sports cards, but never really told you guys on what I actually invest in. Now, some of you may think actually investing in sports cards from a business point of view, it's two separate things. Usually people who are in the business of buying and selling or flipping do not actually invest in, right? But actually in normal circumstances, it's very common for any business to have a side investments. But of course, typically the side investments are normally outside of what the ordinary course of business. So say, for example, if you're in the business of trading, usually investing such as crypto or maybe stocks or maybe real estate. Okay, so it's very rare that if you're in the business of trading and then you reinvest or you have an investment aspect of the same class of things that you usually trade in. But sports cards is a bit different because there is, of course, the buying, selling. There's, of course, the collecting aspect as well as the investing aspect. Now, the definition of investing could be different from when you ask different people what are the definitions of why they invest, how they invest, and what are expectations of the investment that they hope to derive from. So for me, of course, it's a very different from everybody else, and of course, the way I invest is actually different. So in this video, I'm going to share with you on my personal investment strategy. Okay, so again, this is not a video for you guys to take in and say that this is the best. I'm not saying it's the best. It's just basically what works for me, because I do have to take into consideration of the business of buying and selling sports cards as well. And that has been the biggest challenge for me in the past about 18 months, okay, to kind of like balance the things that I like and I want to keep and balance against managing the business, managing the cash flows, and to manage objectives and financial targets that I set for myself for the business. Okay, but I've come to a point whereby I can actually set aside some cards for the longer term. So therefore, I'm going to share this video now. I don't have my full investment portfolio, which is what I'm going to share with you in a little bit. But let me talk to you about what is my definition of investment. So of course, investment are things that could be held for the medium to longer term. Okay, so you put it park it aside, and you expect it to, of course, financially grow in value over a course of period of time. It could be 6 months, it could be 12 months, it could be 2 years, depending on up to you. But what it means is something that enters into my portfolio and something that I don't mind keeping there and to wait for the right opportunity to sell. Now, opportunity to sell can come sooner than later. Okay, so it doesn't mean that I have to hold it to a certain maturity point. And as you know, sports cards do not have a maturity point. Obviously, at this juncture, the market is pretty bull. So a lot of people who have kept cards since the market downturn in 2022 are actually sort of like cashing back into the market. Okay, maybe to cash back, take money to do things that they want to do, buy a house or whatever, or maybe to reinvest back into grills, right? So we're seeing a lot of that lately. So of course, buying into this kind of market investment at this point in time, you may think that, oh, prices are very high. Now it's not the right time to invest. But if you're actually want to buy certain cars, certain grills, kind of like this is the best time, because this is where a lot of grills actually pop up into the market, and this is the opportunity for you to pick up what you want for the longer period of time. When the market is down, nobody's actually selling the grills into the market because they'd rather hold for a time like this. Okay, so contrary to what people think that, this is not the right time to buy because the prices are high, which is true. Okay, but this could be the time that you want to pick up certain cards that you want to hold in the longer term, hence the investing portion of this sports card industry. Okay, so coming back to what's my personal strategy. Okay, so obviously in the last couple of months or the last 1.5 years, okay, I've been trying to buy and sell cars. Okay, a lot of cars pass through my hands, a lot of nice cars passing through my hands, and I always had the temptation to keep some of them. But of course, I have to balance the cash flows of the business. Every time I keep a $20,000 card or $25,000 card, I have to think about how many cards I could buy, how many cards I could flip, and how much margins I could make off that same $25,000, right? So I always preach, making about between 7 to 12% margin. So imagine that a certain $10,000 card, okay, 7 to 12% margin is about $700 to $1,200. Okay, so let's call it 10%, right, to $1,000. So every time I keep a card that's $10,000 for 12 months, essentially that's 10% every single month. So that's $1,000 every single month that has to be kept aside. So I have to look at whether or not my investment would get that kind of yield. Obviously, it's very difficult to predict how the market will behave. Like, certain times whereby certain card can double, certain card can go up by just 20%. And you probably feel that I should have just take the money and roll it differently. True. Okay. But what's unique about holding certain investment pieces is the enjoyment factor, right? To own it, to talk about it, to share with your friends. So that's another qualitative aspect of having a card for investment. Okay. So recently on the podcast, I spoke to Ivan from Singapore, and he had an investment goal of trying to keep 24 Kobe Bryant cards, which is fair. Everybody has their own things. And I told him that my investment strategy is just to maintain 5 cards, and he was a bit shocked. How could you just keep 5 cards? There's so many cards to choose from. So how would you want to keep down to 5 cards? It's because, of course, what I just mentioned about balancing the aspect of business and investing. So 5 to me is actually a good number. And how would I derive at 5 is basically I want to invest in 4 of what I think is the GOATs of basketball, which is Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Stephen Curry, 1 of each, okay, and 1 flex slot. So flex slot doesn't mean that it can be any other player. It could be a duplicate of the same player. I could have 2 Kobe's and have 2 Stephs or something like that. Okay, but 1 flex slot. And it's just give me a bit of flexibility. And maybe in future, I may could up the number to 6 and just have 2 flex slots. So when it comes to investing, what are the criteria for investing for me personally? Okay, so value, of course, you could set a threshold. Say, I want to invest cards that's above $10,000, $20,000, or $50,000. That's fine, everybody. For me, it's not about just the value. Okay, I think for me, the number one is, of course, the eye appeal. Something that when I look back at the card is something that I don't mind enjoying the card, and that's resonates throughout all the collectors out there. Buying what you like, buying what you enjoy, anything. So this is the first criteria. Something that I like, something I enjoy looking at. All right. Second of all, is talking about a grade. Now, grade doesn't mean it has to be a PSA 10 or a BGS 9.5. But to me, I think the grade is basically the highest available grade possible for that particular card. So if the card, let's take, for example, Essential Credentials, Kobe Bryant 1997, been a couple that's popping up for sale recently, BGS 8.5, BGS 9, PSA 7, okay, so all these things are coming to play. But although I like those cards, although they make great investment cards, okay, but based on my own investment strategy, I want to buy the best available grade that's out there. Okay, that qualifies to my investment portfolio, which means that a BGS 9.5 or a PSA 9. I'm not sure if there's a PSA 10 for that card, but a PSA 9. Okay, so even if there's none of these available, I'm not going to buy into that card because obviously there's many cards out there that's available that falls into this category of buying the best available grade. Okay. Now, people ask me, do you want to buy a auto, all right, or a patch or a one-on-one, things like that. So yes, all the above, all right, they fall into this category, okay, but as long that the card is also as well, I wouldn't say iconic, but easily recognizable. Right, so people look at it. Oh, I know this card. This is a limited logos of Michael Jordan. Right, it's pretty obvious. Oh, all right, this is a legacy collection of Kobe Bryant. Oh, this is a logo man of LeBron James. So something that's easily recognizable because if I'm going to keep this card for a long time, I want to move this in the future. I want this that people will look at it and says, "Yep, I know this card. I know it's rare. Okay, I know the grade is hard to get. It looks awesome." So my investment strategy is to basically to have to tick all these boxes in terms of high appeal, recognizable, highest grade possible. Okay, not necessarily a PSA 10 or BGS 10.5. Highest grade possible available for that particular card. Now, people may feel that, look, there are better cards than what I buy it, that's true, okay, but of course it depends on what is available to me at the point in time when I buy it, and of course the price, right? So ideally, I would like to have a LeBron James exclusive 2003 autograph patch in higher grade. Ideally, I want to have a Star Jordan PSA 9, okay? So obviously these are some of the cards that's unattainable, but of course it doesn't mean that given opportunity, given the right time, given the correct financial situation, would I buy into these cards? And the answer is, of course, yes. Okay, but is it going to be challenging? Of course, right? It's not just about taking a sum of money, like, okay, I got this chunk of money I want to put into investing in cards. Some people do that, okay, because they have other aspects of their life. They have a full-time job that they work, they have a career that they do. Setting aside some money into cards and buying the best available card is a strategy as well, and it is tucked in the side, which is very common. But for me, because I'm juggling, the ins and outs of balancing a business, okay, especially in the same line as sports cards, there is a little bit element that I need to take care between the two. I can't be tucking aside a lot of money into cards and then into cards for investment and then just ignore the business aspect. So come now, next question is, what are the cards that fall into the 5 slots that I have? To be honest, I currently only have 2 slots filled up. Okay, I have a couple of nice pieces as well that I'm going to bring to the Macau show, but none of these actually fall into the category of those slots. And what it means is I do not hesitate on moving it for the correct price. Okay, whereas the cards in these 2 slots, these are the ones that I'm going to think about a bit longer. It has to be extremely good offer. So I think the first card, I think most of you guys are very familiar with. I talk about it many times on this channel, which is my 2012 LeBron James Logo Man. All right, NT Logo Man number 5, BGS9's highest grade available for this card. Awesome looking card, very rare Miami Heat Logo Man jersey. So definitely one that I want to hold on to. Will it be something better to replace the LeBron James slot? Obviously, there will be. I always have my sights on the exquisite RPA, but it's not going to be easy to get the best available grade RPA, right? It's going to cost millions of dollars. So this thing is going to be there for a while, until I can find something nicer, which I'm pretty sure there is. Second slot is this 1998 Skybox Rubies Kobe Bryant PSA 7. Now, is a PSA 7? What? Isn't there like a better grade? No, this is the highest available grade on the PSA slab, especially for rubies, where I kind of tend to gravitate towards PSA. And there's a lot of people talk about fakes for the BGS versions. I don't think I've heard any fakes for this particular version of the 1998 rubies, but definitely I will prefer PSA 7. So this is the highest available grade. I talked about this particular card in a previous investment video that I made about valuations, about how high I should pay for this card. 56,000 was, there were no comps. So of course, when you look at this card, right, excellent eye appeals. I think it looks nicer in hand. When I bought this card from the Finance Premier, I already had this rotating photo that looks amazing, awesome. I don't have this in hand. It's currently sitting in the vault. I definitely want to bring this back for one day. But currently, these 2 cards sit in the 2 slots at the moment. Is there a better Kobe card that I want to get? Sure. I would love to have a Kobe PMG. I think that's I think the apex of what I think for me in terms of Kobe collecting. I'm not looking at the logo mans and stuff like for Kobe, but a PMG would be ranked right up there. To come back to my early criteria of buying the best available grade for PMG, that's gonna be a tough call. But again, when it comes to investing, you gotta be very patient. You gotta take your time. You gotta weigh the pros and cons. And of course, financially, you gotta make sure that you are really prepared to set aside the money for this card. I have my sights set on the 3rd slot, which is a Stephen Curry. I'm not going to say what it is yet, and hopefully I'm going to make it happen. Okay, I picked up a very nice Stephen Curry yesterday, which is the M2014 Eminence patch, autograph patch, gold autograph number 5. Excellent looking patch card. You can see right here. Obviously, this can kind of fit the criteria as well, but of course, if this is a 1-of-1, that's a bit different story. Okay, but this is number 5. It's not the best available version out there. Talk about grade, right? Because many people don't actually grade Eminence, but best available Stephen Curry card out there, the first year Eminence, I think that the 1-of-1 would fit higher than this type of card. So that's why it's not occupying the 3rd slot at the moment. So that's basically my investment strategy at the moment. Given the market's up and up, okay, there is a lots and lots of available cards to choose from. And so it's a very challenging time for me whereby I am in a situation whereby I have nice certain set of cards. My portfolio is obviously up in value due to all the price increases. I'm bringing all my stuff to Macau to try and move around. But of course, I'm in a little bit of a dilemma at the moment. Try to whether or not to sell these cards back into auctions and to pick up some of these nice pieces that I see for my investment. But again, sticking straight to an investment strategy, that's really important. So therefore, you don't deviate and start to buy things that you will later regret. Okay, that's it I have for this one. I hope you guys get something out of this. Do like, subscribe, follow this channel for more investment and finance and sports cards videos. Got more guests coming up on the podcast next week. Pretty excited for that one. You guys stick around for that. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next one. Cowboys out.